Now, as the games are finished, we're going to talk a little bit more about their legacy, and you can't have missed the game's slogan, Inspire a Generation, which have been adorning pretty much every venue. So when the schools return in September after the summer holidays, will the classrooms fill up with wannabe Jess Ennis's and Mo Farahs and the like? Well, Paul Miles is a PE teacher at the Mandeville Comprehensive School, which is in Aylesbury. Paul, thanks very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
You know, that is what it is all about in the end, is inspiring a generation. But do you think there really is a correlation between your kids who've been watching on TV or have been here and actually them wanting to take up sport?
Well, I think personally, both my children are desperate to go out and do something. They're not sure what it is, whether it's taekwondo or athletics. They just want to go and join a club and get involved. And I think as a school teacher, I can see in September, I'm going to see kids who come in and say, well, where do I go and play handball? How do I get involved in diving? And I think the key for schools is to have links with the local clubs and say, well, this is where you need to go. Because our role, I think, is to improve kids' understanding of their bodies and fitness and health and looking after themselves. And if we find talented students, we get them into the best club for them locally that can support both them and ideally with their parental support. And I think, secondly, I think we're going to see many more parents who will support their kids in doing it. Because a big block for kids is, I want to go to this club, but how do I physically get there?
Yeah.
The story with Mo Farah, with his PE teacher who physically got him to that club, that's not always going to be possible. So it's important that parents then step up and say, right, yes, my kid wants to go and do this, I'm going to take them because this is something they're going to want to do.
And we hear a lot about maybe there aren't the right facilities for young kids. Are there, for example, in your area, if somebody says, I want to go and be a gymnast, or I want to go and do handball, or, you know, canoeing, are there the facilities? Are there the clubs?
Well, there are, in sort of the traditional, there's always going to be swimming, gymnastics, football, cricket, athletics. They are going to exist, and I think, well, as I've read constantly with handball being very, very popular, is how you can use a sports hall facility that already exists and start a handball club. And I can imagine going back in September and finding 7, 8, Year 9 boys, they want to do handball. So then it's up to me to look into how we can put it in the curriculum and how then we can transfer that into teaching and clubs. Sports like dodgeball, while not an Olympic sport, are growth sport, and kids get involved and keep fit by doing them.
Do we do enough sport in school? I mean, there's been this political debate about whether the 2-hour-a-week rule in terms of sport in school should be kept or not. David Cameron says that's a box-ticking exercise, it's not worth it.
Well, it depends on your definition of sport and physical education. Physical education is students understanding about how they look after themselves, their own health and fitness. Sport is part of that. So within a standard lesson, whether it be football, you might be talking about heart rate and how you improve your skill, and then there'll be some sort of game activity, whether it be small-sided games, whatever. So sport and physical education are two different things that exist within school lessons. Physical education is for everybody. Sport may not necessarily be for everybody. Not everybody is happy going outside in the wind and the rain competing. But for those who are, they make sure they've got access to that within the curriculum and extracurricular within schools and in local clubs.
And the other debate is whether there's enough competitive sport in schools. There's an idea that perhaps that's gone out the window and that schools sort of frown on people losing.
In the schools that I have worked, in the areas that I have worked, there has always been competitive inter-school and whether it be house or inter-form competitive activity. That's always happened, and I've not known any secondary schools where that doesn't. I know in a lot of primary schools it's not as high profile as it could be, but that's often due to the specialism of the primary school teachers that are there. And the system that was in place, the school sports coordinators, where secondary school teachers were having funding to go into primary schools, was having a massive impact. And that funding was withdrawn, but a lot of schools are still continuing to fund that themselves. So that is absolutely crucial at the primary school level.
Okay, well, good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Let's hope the inspired generation will come to you and become the stars of tomorrow. Paul Miles, thank you very much. Okay, just to end with a recap of that break.